Luka's pick and roll partner and not do too much. And
well, that's not on him. I mean, sitting in the corner is not going to do much. But yeah, I think, in order, I personally don't think the Lakers are good enough to be contenders right now. Not right now.
When you say contenders, what do you mean?
I don't think they have enough to get to the Western Conference final. I don't think they have enough to get to really contend from that perspective.
So OKC is in a class by themselves.
Very much
They won 1 million games last year. They won the title. They have one loss and 23-1 now? Can't keep
I stopped
up.
counting.
Right, so it's crazy.
They're good. They're really good.
And I always thought, even last year, it's like, wait, they're this good and they're going to get Chet Holmgren at a certain point? That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot. And here they are, they're rolling. Now they're confident because they just won the championship. They're maturing. They're getting better. So, okay, put them aside for a second. You think the Lakers don't fit in with the rest of the pack? They got the second best record in the conference.
Yeah, but we've seen that before. That doesn't mean anything. I think when you look, we've seen it, right? We've seen when you have the talent up top that they have, those guys can win games.
LeBron and Luka.
But also Austin's
and
played
Austin
very well
Reeves,
this year. He's taken a step.
Defying age and expectations. On the other, he cites age as a limiting factor when discussing availability, defensive effort, and workload management. These mixed messages have become a focal point for critics who argue that the narrative around his career is often adjusted depending on circumstance. The discussion intensified following a recent game against Milwaukee. The final moments of that game ended with Giannis Antetokounmpo making a defensive play at the rim and recording a steal that effectively sealed the outcome. For critics, this moment stood in direct contrast to the claim that LeBron is the greatest decision-maker in NBA history, especially in late-game situations. This is why Rich Paul's comments drew so much attention. His assertion that LeBron should have the ball over Michael Jordan at the end of a game raises questions when compared to specific late-game outcomes throughout LeBron's career. Rich Paul stated that Michael Jordan would want LeBron James to have the ball in his hands to make the decision. He reiterated that LeBron is the best decision-maker the game has ever seen. This framing places decision-making above shot-making, suggesting that facilitating the best possible outcome is more valuable than taking the final attempt yourself. However, when examining historical examples, critics argue that Michael Jordan's late-game resume contains remarkably few high-profile mistakes. One of the most cited examples occurred in 1995, shortly after Jordan returned from baseball, when Nick Anderson stole the ball from him late in a playoff game against Orlando. Beyond that moment, many struggle to identify repeated late-game errors from Jordan during his prime. In contrast, LeBron James' late-game record is often viewed as more inconsistent. Critics frequently reference the 2011 NBA Finals, where LeBron had multiple fourth quarters with minimal scoring impact. In one game, he scored 0 points in the fourth quarter. In others, his production was significantly below expectations for a superstar leading a championship-level team. Additional examples are often cited, including playoff losses to Boston, Orlando, and other opponents where LeBron was expected to assert dominance late but did not. These moments form the basis of the argument that LeBron's decision-making under pressure does not consistently align with the reputation assigned to him. One moment that continues to receive significant attention occurred during the 2018 NBA Finals. Late in Game 1, LeBron passed instead of taking a potential shot over Stephen Curry. After George Hill missed free throws, J.R. Smith secured the rebound but failed to attempt a shot before time expired, believing the game was tied. What followed became a defining image for critics. LeBron reacted with visible frustration and disengagement, walking back toward the bench as if the game were already lost, despite the fact that overtime was about to begin. Critics argue that this reflected a failure of leadership rather than a single mental error by a teammate. Instead of rallying the team, refocusing.
But then things start to really, when you come to back half of the season, where guys are really, now they have their conditioning,
they're scouting you different, they're preparing for you more. Yeah,
it's one thing. Then when you go into the playoffs, we've seen last year, they ran into athleticism and length. They struggled. So when you look at it now, athleticism, length, shooting, speed, right? Because now, can the Lakers play fast? I don't think so. And style of play. You can't, that style of play it's going to be very easy to guard
But
when you
who
get
do
to
they
the
not
playoffs.
fit in with other than OKC?
Well, I mean,
Denver?
Denver's no, they're not a better team
Houston?
than Denver. Athletes.
I think they fit in with it. Look, ideally, Austin Reeves, and who knows what happens by the playoffs, is Ginobili, right? In an ideal world,
On a championship
on
team?
a championship team, he's the killer sixth man, right?
Yeah. But
That's
he's
not
paid,
this.
But he's paid as a starter.
He's paid. I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So it makes it harder.
Yeah.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is Ginobili was paid as a starter. He
Sure,
just
but in
was a
this
sixth
day
man.
and age, if you're paid the way he's about to get paid,
But
it's
let me
harder
ask you
to
this
make you a
question.
sixth man.
Going back to the championship organization versus an organization with championships. The Spurs,
On the Spurs, he'd be the sixth man, right?
Right.
Especially back in the day.
Spurs made that decision. And you know what Ginobili did?
Went
He
along with
embraced it.
Right.
Right. And how many championships they win?
The conversation is less about one game or one quote and more about how legacy is constructed. Whether LeBron James should be viewed as the greatest decision-maker in NBA history depends largely on which moments are emphasized and which standards are applied. What remains clear is debates surrounding LeBron, Michael Jordan, and late-game greatness are unlikely to fade. Each era produces its own metrics, expectations, and interpretations, ensuring that these discussions continue as long as the game evolves.
Beyond individual moments, the debate surrounding LeBron James and late-game decision-making highlights a deeper disagreement about what leadership looks like under pressure. Leadership in professional basketball is not limited to making the correct pass or taking the correct shot. It also includes emotional regulation, communication, and the ability to steady a team when circumstances turn unfavorable. Historically, many of the players remembered as elite leaders were defined by their reactions to adversity. When mistakes occurred, whether their own or those of a teammate, their response often shaped how the team performed in the moments that followed. This response could involve vocal encouragement, visible composure, or assertive direction. Critics argue that these traits are just as important as tactical decision-making. In this context, LeBron James's leadership style has often been described as situational rather than constant. During periods of success, his presence is widely praised. He is viewed as engaged, communicative, and dominant. However, during moments of collapse or unexpected failure, critics claim his body language and emotional responses sometimes undermine team morale. This critique becomes more pronounced when comparing LeBron to players like Michael Jordan, whose leadership style was rooted in relentless intensity. Jordan's approach was confrontational, demanding, and uncompromising. While this style was not universally appreciated by teammates, it created a clear hierarchy and expectation of accountability. LeBron's approach has generally leaned toward collaboration and trust. He often empowers teammates by involving them in decision-making moments, which aligns with modern basketball philosophy. However, critics argue that this same approach can appear passive when decisive intervention is required. The 2018 Finals incident remains a focal point because it illustrates this contrast. The error itself, the missed shot attempt or misjudgment by a teammate, is not uncommon in high-pressure situations. What elevates the moment in critics' eyes is the absence of visible leadership immediately afterward. The perception is that LeBron disengaged rather than reasserted control. Supporters counter that leadership does not always require overt displays. They argue that LeBron's cumulative influence throughout the game and series should outweigh a single reaction. They also point out that fatigue, frustration, and situational context must be considered. This back and forth reflects how leadership is interpreted subjectively. Some prioritize emotional resilience and symbolic gestures, while others emphasize strategic efficiency and trust in teammates. Decision-making itself is another area where interpretation diverges. Rich Paul's claim that LeBron is the greatest decision-maker in basketball history relies on a broad definition of decision-making. This definition includes reading defensive coverages, anticipating rotations, and choosing the highest percentage outcome rather than seeking individual glory. Statistically, LeBron's assist totals, usage rate efficiency, and playmaking metrics support this claim to some degree. He consistently ranks among the league's leaders in creating open shots for teammates. His basketball IQ is widely acknowledged by coaches, analysts, and former players. However, critics argue that decision-making in late-game situations carries a different standard. In those moments, the margin for error is smaller and the consequences are amplified. A technically sound decision may still be criticized if it does not align with expectations of dominance. Michael Jordan's legacy benefits from this expectation. Jordan often chose to take the shot himself, reinforcing the perception that he embraced responsibility regardless of outcome. Even when those shots missed, the willingness to take them reinforced his image as a decisive leader. LeBron's willingness to defer in similar moments challenges traditional narratives of heroism. For some, this reflects unselfishness and trust. For others, it suggests hesitation or avoidance of accountability. These interpretations coexist and fuel ongoing debate. Another factor influencing perception is era-specific strategy. Modern defenses are more complex, with frequent double teams, switching schemes, and advanced analytics informing shot selection. In many cases, passing to an open shooter is statistically preferable to taking a contested attempt. Jordan played in an era where isolation scoring was more common and defensive rules allowed for greater physicality. His scoring decisions occurred within a different strategic framework, making direct comparisons difficult. Despite these differences, legacy debates often flatten context. Singular moments are extracted and used as evidence, while broader conditions are minimized. This selective framing contributes to polarized opinions. Media coverage plays a significant role in shaping these narratives. LeBron's career has unfolded during a period of constant media saturation. Every statement, performance, and reaction is dissected across platforms. This level of scrutiny magnifies contradictions and amplifies criticism. Jordan's era, by comparison, was shaped by fewer outlets and slower news cycles. While criticism certainly existed, it did not circulate with the same speed or volume. As a result, Jordan's mistakes were less frequently revisited and contextualized within a longer-term narrative of success. This difference affects how legacies are preserved. Modern players operate in an environment where every inconsistency is archived and replayed. This can create the impression of volatility even when overall performance remains elite. LeBron's public commentary also contributes to these perceptions. His openness about age, workload, and physical limitations reflects a modern approach to athlete transparency. While some appreciate this honesty, others interpret it as preemptive justification for decline. When LeBron references his age after poor performances, critics argue that it conflicts with earlier statements about defying time. This perceived inconsistency becomes a focal point for those questioning the authenticity of his narrative. Supporters argue that acknowledging limitations does not negate excellence. They point out that managing expectations is reasonable for a player with unprecedented mileage. From this perspective, LeBron's transparency reflects self-awareness rather than contradiction. These competing interpretations highlight how narrative framing influences reception. The same statement can be viewed as honest reflection or strategic deflection, depending on prior beliefs. Rich Paul's role in shaping LeBron's public image further complicates the discussion. As both agent and advocate, Paul's statements often blur the line between analysis and promotion. His claim about LeBron's decision-making can be seen as both genuine belief and professional obligation. When such claims are followed closely by moments that appear contradictory, critics view it as evidence of narrative inflation. Supporters, however, see it as unfairly holding LeBron to an impossible standard of consistency. The Milwaukee game serves as an example of how single events can become symbolic. One defensive play by Giannis Antetokounmpo is transformed into a referendum on LeBron's career. While this may oversimplify reality, it reflects how legacy debates operate in practice. Giannis himself represents a contrasting model of greatness. His rise has been characterized by steady improvement within one organization, culminating in a championship achieved without forming a super team. This narrative resonates with fans who value continuity and internal development. Comparisons between Giannis and LeBron often center on effort, defense, and perceived hunger. Giannis's aggressive style and visible intensity reinforce an image of relentless competitiveness. LeBron's more measured approach, especially later in his career, invites contrasting interpretations. Age plays a role in this comparison, but critics argue that leadership expectations do not diminish with time. They believe that experience should enhance composure and authority rather than excuse disengagement. Ultimately, the debate surrounding LeBron James is less about factual disagreement and more about value judgment. Different observers prioritize different qualities, dominance versus adaptability, decisiveness versus collaboration, emotional intensity versus strategic calm. Michael Jordan's legacy aligns strongly with traditional ideals of competitive leadership. LeBron's legacy reflects modern basketball's emphasis on versatility and shared responsibility. Neither framework is inherently superior, but they produce different expectations. Rich Paul's assertion that LeBron is the greatest decision-maker ever challenges those traditional ideals. It invites scrutiny not only of LeBron's performances, but of the criteria used to evaluate greatness. As LeBron's career approaches his final chapters, these debates are likely to intensify. Retrospective analysis often simplifies careers into defining moments. Which moments ultimately define LeBron will depend on which narratives gain prominence. What remains clear is that LeBron James has shaped the modern NBA in profound ways. His influence extends beyond statistics.